Hi everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and the purpose of this video is to give you a walkthrough of your midterm exam. You can find the review for your midterm exam under the sustainability session. So you'll actually see the review for the midterm, and right below will be the walkthrough of the midterm exam once I'm finished videotaping this lecture. The midterm exam is an all essay exam. There are no kind of surprises on the midterm exam. The midterm exam is you're given 3 hours and 1 chance to take the midterm exam. It is highly recommended that you type out the answers before the midterm exam, and that's why I give you the review for the midterm well before the midterm exam so that you can type out the answers. The answers can totally be found in any of the information I've given you, and on the midterm exam review I kind of tell you where to find the information. I also highly recommend going back and listening or reading the roundups that I send out each week because they also contain answers to the midterm exam questions. So there's no reason why you can't succeed on the midterm exam. It's just going to be whether you put the time and energy in before the midterm exam. I've had a lot of students in the past try and type out the answers as they are taking the midterm exam, and usually it doesn't work out for those students. Of course, there's a small population of students that it does work out for, but for the most part in general, it doesn't work out for those students because they're so busy looking up that 3 hours seems like a long time, but it clips away at a quick pace when you're looking for answers. So again, I highly suggest that you download this Word document and you type out the answers before the midterm, and then the midterm exam is actually just copying and pasting your answers into the portal where the questions lie. Remember, there's no surprises. All of these questions that are here are going to be on the midterm exam. Okay, so the first question is this, also, just one other little thing. Number one, if you use Course Hero, you get a 0, and you get a 0 for the entire class because it's cheating. I've had students in the past ask questions on here to tutors on Course Hero, and yeah, of course the tutor gives back an answer, but the answer is not related to the class because the tutor doesn't have access to the materials in this class. So that brings me to the second segue. All answers have to be used giving the sources I've given you in the modules. You cannot use outside sources. There's only one question that I allow you to use. For one part of the question, I allow you to use an outside source, and you must cite it. But for all the other questions, no outside sources allowed. You have to use the material I've given you. And the reason for that is, number one, I prevent cheating. Number two is that I know that you understand the material I've given you in the class. So no outside sources allowed. You'll see I have the midterm exam set up in sessions. So session 1, this deals with session 1 or module 1. This one deals with session 2 or module session 2. So it's kind of set up that way. Now the exam questions are in different order on the exam, but at least the midterm review sheet is set up where you can find all the information within those modules that are associated with the session. So session 1, what are the main reasons for our uncertainty and understanding of the environment, and how does the scientific method help us remove uncertainty from science? This can totally be found in the PowerPoint presentation. Remember, the PowerPoint presentation, if you open it up, also has notes underneath, so make sure you do that. Also, you can use the assignment 1, the scientific method assignment, can help you with the second part of that answer, which is how do we remove uncertainty by using the scientific method. Okay, and this definitely can be found in the PowerPoint, and it deals with complexity, ignorance. There's a lot of reasons why we have uncertainty in science. Why are negative and positive feedback loops important for the environment, and give an example of each related to environmental conservation. So explain why negative and positive feedback loops are important for the environment. Remember, they bring about that balance and homeostasis, but you also then need to include an example of a negative feedback loop and a positive feedback loop related to the class. It cannot be about the human body or to this class, okay, to environmental conservation, and there are 2 examples given to you in the PowerPoint. What is the difference between primary and secondary ecological succession, and why is succession important for ecosystems? This is really good. This is found in your textbook. This is also found in the PowerPoint. There's also an additional video in the module that can help you answer this question. Okay, each one of these, so this one needs to be a full paragraph in length, this needs to be a full paragraph in length, this needs to be a full paragraph in length. So there's 3 separate questions here on the exam. This session 2, these actually are roped into one question, 3 parts in one question. You're definitely going to want to be over a full paragraph in length, because to answer these questions will not be a sentence. It will be definitely more than 1 paragraph in length. Why do we use mutual corrosion to protect the commons? Remember, as per Hardin, mutual corrosion is that idea that we feel our freedoms are being taken away, but it doesn't feel that way. Parking meters, he gives a really good example of that, so take a look at that. And yes, he does think, as per the article, it does work in some senses. Of course, there's always going to be people beating the system, but yes, it does work. And then I want you to explain why it works. And I kind of just gave you that answer. Why do technical solutions not work in solving the commons problem? And this is in the roundups. It's also all throughout Hardin's article. And explain the mathematical equation using words that enables humans to justify the short-term gain rather than protecting the long-term interests of society. You can find this answer under the tragedy in the commons section of Hardin's article. You can also find this in the PowerPoint presentation. Explain how okay, so now we're in session 3. Explain how our current views of the environment have been formed. You need to include multiple reasons, not just one reason. There's multiple reasons. I want one of the reasons to be why monotheistic religions have caused our detachment with nature. I know it's a very hard topic for a lot of people who are very religious, but monotheistic religions have caused our detachment in nature, even though AKA God tells us to be a steward of the environment. That actually means we're in control of it, because we're being the steward. We're deciding what's good for the environment, and that is not a good thing, because once we have removed ourselves from nature, meaning that we think we're above nature, there's a lot of problems with that. So I want you to explain that, and I talk about that in a roundup. Can we put a monetary value on clean air or forest? Yes, we can. It's just not accurate. And then I want you to explain the controversies associated with ecological valuation and contingent valuation. These can be found in the PowerPoint, as well as using the article Pricing the Priceless. Preservation versus conservation. Explain the difference between conservationists and preservationists as they relate to this class. Remember, I do not want you to go outside. Using outside sources will give you the wrong answer for this. For example, preservation is not protecting buildings as per this class. So please use the sources I've given you. Explain how utilitarianism is related to conservation, and how utilitarianism influenced the decision to ultimately dam the valley. I want you to explain, first of all, what utilitarianism is, and then second of all, which I give you video lectures under the thing, so really you don't need to use outside sources. I do allow you to use an outside source just to find out what happened with Hetch Hetchy, the full background, but there is also a lot of information in the PowerPoint that can help you answer that question. Why do we not live on a linear system in a finite world? And this is in a roundup. It's really about the fact that a linear system is a line where there's only an input and an output, and the output is not put back into the input to make it a circular closed loop fashion. So we will eventually run out of resources because we're putting resources in, and then at the back end, while we're running out of resources, we will have so much garbage we don't know what to do with. And that's exactly where we are right now, is that we're shipping our garbage all over the world because in the United States, we've run out of landfill space, and we just really don't burn trash anymore because there's so many toxic chemicals in the products that we use. We use a lot of plastic. So when we burn plastic, there's a lot of toxic chemicals in it, neurotoxins, right? So we don't actually burn plastic here because it's too dangerous. So what do? We ship it overseas and allow other third world countries to burn toxic chemicals because, hey, listen, they're just people in another country. They're not people here. And I'm being sarcastic when I say that. But it is that whole idea that we kind of use up and abuse individuals all along the chain. And remember in that, I also want you to talk about that whole idea of that perceived obsolescence, planned obsolescence, and externalization of costs, which allow us to use all those resources, right? because we either make things for the dump, or we put things out of style, or we lower the cost so much, we externalize the cost, that we allow the abuse to occur. The session 5 question is fair trade. What is fair trade? I want you to be specific as to what fair trade is. Fair wages, equity, protection of workers all along the chain, using eco-friendly products, using recycled products. So there's a lot to do with fair trade. What are the issues if we allow large corporations to play a role in fair trade? And that's in one of the podcasts, the answer to that. Why is supporting fair trade essential in our quest to stop the linear system model? Well, if you answer this question properly, you then can incorporate that and critically think to answer this question, okay? Why do fat-free foods come at a cost? So the last question on the exam has to deal with, not the last question on the exam, but the last question on this review sheet has to do with the film Fed Up. And I want you to make sure that you use exact and examples from the film, and this way I know you've watched the film. A lot of people just watch or read about the film, and you won't be able to answer this question without actually watching the film, and so make sure that you have exact examples from the film in your answer. Please don't give me other people's work. Make sure it's your work. It's very easy to tell when students haven't watched the film, so please be sure that you include exact examples from the film. Like, for example, in the film they said this, okay? I want you to use exact reasoning from the film, okay? And I hope this question actually gives you a good sense. Fat-free foods are definitely a fad, and they've allowed us to think that we're eating healthy when in fact we're actually eating more sugar or a lot more chemicals in our food. We don't realize that because it's fat-free or 100 calories, right? And so that's definitely something I want you just to be aware of. I know it's really hard to change our eating habits, but I just want you to be aware of that, or at least have it to your attention. Okay, so hopefully this walkthrough helped you kind of understand what I'm looking for in midterm exam answers and questions, where to find the information, and hopefully it will help you succeed on the midterm exam.